Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chia. If you have watched my February TBR video where I picked my TBR from a TBR jar, I picked 5 book prompts and chose 5 books for it. I wanted to do a video where I decided to read 2 of them, and I wanted to do a themed one where I picked the lowest rated book on Goodreads versus the highest rated books on Goodreads, and if I personally agree if those ratings are accurate for the books. Per Goodreads, the lowest rated book on my TBR is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. This one has a 3.69 rating, and I don't have any runner-ups for this book. Everything else is like rated higher than a 3.69. A lot of them are like 3.8 or higher, so this one is the one we'll go with for the lowest rated. And then the highest rated one was between 2. Torch Against the Night by Sabit Tahir has a 4.22 rating, but it is rated by 197,686 people. Compared to that, this one is 4.24, which is Hazelthorn, and this one is rated by 11,310 ratings. So technically I feel like this one would be the higher rated one because more people rated it higher, but since this one is 0.2 higher, I'm just gonna go with this one and go with the Goodreads rating. And objectively, maybe since like this one is a lot less people rating it, I do want to read this more than like Torch Against the Night. Obviously I'm still gonna read that one, it's a part of my February TBR, it's still gonna be on my list, but this one is going to be the one read with this video. Okay, so I figured the first book we'll read is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. Let's start off low and then end high. Well, I hope so, based on like my opinions. Maybe I'll rate this higher than like this one, or vice versa. Depending on my experience with it, I will see if I agree with the Goodreads ratings or not. But since this is the first book that we're reading, this one's relatively pretty short. This one's like less than 300 pages. Yes, 286, so this might not take me too long. If you read my TBR video, you would know that this was the prompt for the book that's been on my shelf the longest. I bought this back in like, I think 2024, and so I don't know much about this. I just know this sort of like a gothic setting, and so this one is a sort of mystery where a person named Indigo gets married and then she makes a deal with her bridegroom. The biggest thing that she doesn't want him to do is to look back into her past because there's like some hidden thing in there, like a secret that she's hiding, and of course he agrees because he wants to respect her wishes and also marry her. That's the extent of what I know about this book. I don't know if a lot of people read it. Obviously on Goodreads there's like way less ratings than I thought there would be. There's only 11,000, and I want to see what I feel about this. I want to say it's fantasy combining the lush haunting atmosphere, so it's like a Mexican Gothic like atmosphere. I never read Mexican Gothic, with the dreamy enchantment of the invisible life of Addie LaRue. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is a spellbinding adult debut. So is it fantasy? I guess we'll find out. So let's get started. Okay friends, I do have an update on The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I'm on page 155, chapter 18. The book is not that long. It's like less than 300 pages. It's 298. It's actually pretty easy to read, and I am liking it so far. It's very filled with like writing that's very, very flowery. It's pretty writing, but in a gothic book with a gothic setting, and it's very, I guess you could classify this as sort of like gothic horror because there's some like horror elements in it too. We follow a character who is just titled the bridegroom. He doesn't even fully get a name. He ends up meeting with a character named Indigo, and she is the head of the Castañeda family. They own like big hotels here and there, and she's the main heir. And so it begins where he is sort of gonna meet her because he is a historian. She has in possession sort of like some ancient texts that he needs to study. So he contacts her, and they end up like having a really nice dinner with each other where they're just like, it's like mysterious. It's very mysterious. Like you don't really know too much about her, and they start like going in a whirlwind relationship. He starts dating her and they travel all over the world, and they end up getting married shortly after because they fall deeply in love. And so the way he describes his relationship with her, he was sort of like a moth who was drawn to a flame. She's one of those very enigmatic, very strong characters where you just feel their presence when they walk into a room. They're very attention catching. She's one of those characters where she just like attracts attention wherever she goes, and also she makes a requirement of him, asking him that if they are to marry, the number one thing that he has to vow is to never ever look into her past, to not ask any questions. So if like anything upsetting comes across to her that is like tied to her past, or like they travel around to her different properties, he finds out little clues or hints here and there of like connecting to her past. But obviously he makes a promise that he will never dive into her past, never dig into it. And 3 years down the line, she ends up getting a call saying that her grandmother is very sick, and so she has to come back to the house that she grew up in called the Dream House. And so he ends up going with her, and there he finds out a lot of like different secrets that are housed in the Dream House. Main one is that she used to have a friend named Azur, and they used to be super close friends. Like they were practically sisters, and she would come all the time, but obviously he kept the vow. But he feels the curiosity like in the back of his head telling him why she wants to keep everything hidden so badly. He starts interacting with like different people in the house. One of them is like a housekeeper or the runner of the house whenever Indigo's not there, and so she's also like the caretaker of her grandmother, and her grandmother's like kind of getting sicker and sicker. And it's sort of like the Dream House that he comes across as sort of a character in and of itself, because it seems to house magic. This book just feels sort of like a fever dream right now, and so we not only get a perspective from the bridegroom, but we also start getting every other chapter from Azur's perspective. It starts from when she meets Indigo, and then it starts from when she has little adventures with her as a kid, and how she basically comes from a broken home. Her mom doesn't really have any, motherly characteristics that made her want to stay at home, and also her mother just remarried, so her stepfather is a creep. He's very creepy, so she never wants to be at home. He just makes her feel uncomfortable, and then of course her mom doesn't really do anything to kind of protect her, so she much rather prefers staying over at Indigo's house. They call it the Dream House. They pretend they're fairies, and sometimes it's borderline not knowing whether or not it's real or not, the stuff that they encounter, the stuff that Azur sees as she slowly grows up. It's very bingeable, but there are some certain horror elements that I'm not really used to, and she's mainly lives there pretty much because she doesn't want to go back home. And since Indigo's basically in charge of the house, she gets to say who stays in the house, and they seem to be like very close with each other to the point where they each are referring to each other as like the other half of their soul, where they're basically one. So they grow up from like kids to now. In the chapters that I have with Azur now, she is 17 and slowly growing up. You know how when you're kids and you play a lot of pretend and you see a lot of things that you don't necessarily like think of as adults anymore, you pretend what the world is like around you, so they play pretend a lot. Azur and Indigo, they go into this other world where they have it in their like backyard next to a creek where they pretend to be fairies. Sometimes they believe they are fairies. I don't even know what's going on in this book, so I don't know if they are or not. It's at that line where you don't know what's real or not, and I kind of like that. It's really satisfying me right now, the writing, and also trying to find out the mystery, and how there's not really long drawn out like scenes in it. It's just alternating back and forth from literally what the bridegroom is finding out and what Azur is growing through with being a part of Indigo's like sort of world. And so they have their own little world, and I love how the bridegroom also has a certain connection also to magic. Since he's a historian, he's like studied so many things about like reading magic and stuff like that. I'm like getting an inkling on what the true thing that happens at the end, because there are some sort of like foreshadowing elements, like little lines here and there being told, but we shall see at the end if I turn out to be right or not. I do have a theory. I'm liking it so far. I'm really liking how it's written. I'm just confused on what's happening right now, because like I said, it feels like a fever dream because you don't know what's real and what's not. So I'm excited to finally finish it, and I'm actually really enjoying it, and it might get a high rating from me if depending on the ending, but I might be able to like finish this today. Like I said, it's like very short. It's 298 pages. I'm on page 155, and the chapters are not that long. It's only like the longest chapter I came across was probably like 5 pages long. I'm interested just to see what happens. Okay, I'm getting ready to finish this. I'm about 50 pages away. Even though it's a short book, it's taking me a little bit to get through, but I think it's just because of the writing. I'm too busy trying to make sure that I understand everything, but I just know that this girl seems evil. But yeah, let's finish together. knew it. I knew it. You know how sometimes you like spend so much time on your hair and then you try to resist your hardest to not, tuck these bangs behind your ears? I just get so overstimulated that I just don't want it in my face, but I'm trying to not do that because then I spend so much time trying to like get these bangs right. Just to have it tucked behind my ears is just annoying, but you know what? That's not what the point of this video is. I did finish The Last Tale of the Flower Bride and I ended up giving this a 3.75. I was so into it the moment I started reading the book. The writing was amazing and I loved the descriptions it gave. It gave such atmospheric vibes. There's a lot of stuff that happens between Azure and Indigo, especially when we're going back and forth between the bridegroom's perspective and also Azure's POV. I did love the atmosphere of it, but for a book that was like a little over 200 pages, like 274, it felt a little bit long in the middle because it did keep repeating over and over like different situations that were just reiterating the same message. Oh my god, I'm doing it again. Okay, I need to stop. This one, I loved how everything was portrayed. It just felt like a fever dream the whole entire time I was reading it. I think I wanted a little bit more, and also it would have been a 4 stars and not 3.75 if I hadn't guessed the ending. The heavy-handedness of like a lot of the foreshadowing and a lot of the things that Indigo and Azure were being compared to was really tying it to the end, and I kind of guessed this ending like halfway through. It was one of the theories I had. I wasn't too solidified on it, but the fact that they keep bringing up a certain characteristics is when it kind of clicked in my head what was going to happen. So unfortunately, I wish like it did stay at a 4 stars, and it's not going to be a big favorite of mine, but I do love Roshani Chakshi's like writing. I love how atmospheric everything was, how gothic everything was, and it was very dreamy-like because it would talk about all these different situations where sometimes they would believe in like magic like kids do, especially when Azure and Indigo were growing up. And also the house was like a character on its own too, because it was kind of a little bit sentient. Every single time little things would happen in the house would either react a certain way, whether it's negative or positive, and then it would show itself to Azure, because I think the house really liked Azure. I really did like my time with this, and I can't wait to read more of her work. I didn't really feel anything too negative or too positive towards it. It just felt nice and vibey. That's all it is. And for me to really understand a book, I would love to connect to it more. I just felt like there was not really a big connection between any of the characters, and it was very interesting that the bridegroom didn't get a name whatsoever. I like the themes in it also, because when is it time to grow from like a little girl believing in magic to actually growing up and getting out of there and experiencing the world and understanding that you want to experience the world. So I do recommend this if you just want a vibey read, but I didn't really get anything like in depth with it, but I am willing to read more of their work. I do kind of agree with the ratings because I thought it was just kind of average to me, high average at least, 3.75. And also I thought that a lot of the atmosphere was like taking a bigger role over like the characters or the plot, which I thought made sense because since the book was so short, I figured that's where it was gonna go. But I finally got this off my shelf, and I'm so happy that I finally did, because this thing has been on my shelf for so long and I really did enjoy my time with it. So that means I moved on to Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews. This follows a character named Evander. He lives in this Hazelthorn Manor, and he is sort of like a ward of the billionaire who is, taking over this house. And so he's always lived in this house since he was like 10 years old when his parents passed away and he got adopted by the billionaire. And he unfortunately had like an interaction with the billionaire's grandson when they were kids. They used to grow up together. They used to like play with each other. They used to be like really good friends apparently. And I guess like Lori, the other boy, ended up attacking him. And so there's a point where he had to get like life-saving surgery since he was attacked so badly. This book is actually pretty gory. It is horror, so that makes sense. And there's a big theme of like the garden taking over a lot of the things in the back. It's sort of like a sentient evil garden. And there's also a theme of like poison in here, because unfortunately the billionaire does end up passing away. When Vander is there, he ends up witnessing the grandfather like dying, and he thinks he's poisoned. And so there's like a running theme of poison in here as well, because there's also experiences where he has with seeing belladonna growing growing in the garden, and also like he has always been told that he has had episodes since his parents passed away. That's why Byron, who was the billionaire who adopted him, has always kept him in his room. He's always been locked in his room. He's always been administered this medicine constantly because they wanted to avoid him having episodes. And also he is finding that he has sort of like a slight obsession with Lori, despite the fact that Lori, you know, attacked him as a kid. And also I think there's more to the story than that. It is very like gothic horror atmosphere. It's a young adult book, but the atmosphere is very creepy and scary and also kind of gross, to be honest. He has sort of like autistic rage happening because of the fact that he's been trapped in his room and also not being able to interact with other people. And also he's always been angry at Lori for what he did when they were kids. So he has a lot of stuff to deal with, and then he starts finding out that maybe he didn't have to be locked in his room this whole time. Because of all these episodes that he's going through, he's always felt abnormal compared to everybody else. There's constant like conversations he's having with himself about trying to be normal, trying to be quiet, trying to be calm, because Byron has always told him to be quiet, to be calm, to be an upstanding citizen, despite him being locked away in his room constantly. Evander has been named as the sole heir and sole inheritor of like the estate and everything and all of Byron's money. There's like heirs popping up everywhere, like Byron's like kids and relatives and stuff like that popping up on the manor and trying to claim what's theirs, despite the fact that he's, you know, named for it. And now more and more revelations are coming showing that he hasn't known the full truth of what's been happening. And there's like a lot of creepy stuff happening, and I can't wait to find out. And there's like little instances here and there between Lori and Evander that I'm really liking, so we'll see. But I'm hoping that we get more deep dive into what happened when they were kids. Hopefully we get like a full answers to that. I'm really liking the atmospheric vibes of it. I'm on chapter 17, page 179. This book is not that long. It's 355 pages long. I don't know if I mentioned in the beginning of this video, but I've been in my audiobook game lately. Right now I'm just like not really in the mood to completely sit down and eyeball read completely, so I'm going to use some of my Spotify hours to read some of this, and then we'll see after that. I'll continue with an update. Okay, I just made it to chapter 23 from the audiobook. Dude, this family is messed up. I'm trying to understand the progression of like their relationship of Evander's and Lori's, and I guess they always cared for each other as kids, but maybe going through traumatic stuff like that brought them closer, but I'm not seeing the depth of it. And also, Lori's kind of remind me a little bit of Draco Malfoy. But I have less than 100 pages left, so let's try to finish this today. Okay, so I did finish Hazelthorn last night, and I ended up giving this a 4 stars. I kind of agree with the ratings that we had on Goodreads. It's currently sitting in a 4.23 right now. I didn't give it a 4.25 because I just felt like there was some stuff I wanted more of in this book, and also I wish we dived more into the past between Evander and Lori. I wanted more from that, and also I did like the parts where the garden kind of started like becoming more of its own character as well, because it's so dangerous. And then also the different secrets that you find out that the family was hiding, that Byron was hiding, and how Lori and Evander played into this. It was wild. There was a point where at the last few pages of the book I gasped because there's a big shocker in there, and also I liked how everything wrapped up. The biggest thing that I found was really interesting was that the garden was basically the physical embodiment of how Evander felt the whole entire time when he was growing up, how he felt trapped by not being and feeling like that he's normal, that what constituted as normal in his world is not what he was. And he found that he connected a lot to different stuff that Lori was going through as well because of the stuff that they were both dealing with from the whole entire family. And so I love that, kind of took on the metaphor of that, and I really found T.J. Drew's writing really interesting. She really knows how to put you into the setting of the story. Like, I felt the creepiness of how the whole entire garden was kind of evil, and how it was like kind of attacking back after like Byron passed away, and how everything came about, and what happened to resolve the issue of like the inheritance games vibes that I told you guys about earlier. I really did agree with the ratings of this on Goodreads. Like I said, I gave it a 4 stars instead of the 4.25, so I kind of agree with it. It's really close. And also same thing with The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I think I agree with that too, because I felt like there needs to be a little bit more to that story for me to have given it a higher rating. But overall, I honestly feel like sometimes Goodreads can either be higher than what you rate the book and sometimes lower, and it just depends on your feelings. But this point where like this experiment for my TBR for February, I felt that they were spot on for the opinions and experiences I had before reading these books. I didn't realize that they also have like kind of like similar themes as well, similar points of feeling like you are trapped at different points of your life because you just don't know what you want at one point, and also the gothic atmosphere of both books. And I didn't realize when I chose the lowest and highest rated on my TBR that's the theme. It didn't connect in my head until I started reading Hazelthorn, how close they were to like the evil sentient like gardens and houses, and also the gothic atmosphere. And they're both great writers. Roshani Chokshi had more of like a romantic feeling for her gothic book, and this one is more of like a horror young adult vibes to it. And I really love the themes in this book, and I can't wait to read more of her work. I'm probably gonna pick up Don't Let the Force In maybe closer to spooky Halloween time. I'm sure I mentioned before in other videos that I'm not really too fond of the horror genre. I just feel like it just gets into my head too easily, and then I ended up having nightmares. But this one was a great middle to have because it was creepy and a little bit gory at points, but not too much so that it's over the threshold of how much I can take. So I really like her writing, and I do want to discover more. But that was it for this reading vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed this new like form of reading vlog where I read the highest and lowest rated books on my TBR, specifically for me, at least for February. And I'm hoping that I can do another one of these videos next month for my March TBR. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want more videos like this, like and subscribe. It really does help my channel a lot, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!